Peace and blessings. Thanks for stopping by Cindy Farm.
Welcome.
Well, we're at the end of our growing season. We are in the process of putting our beds to rest right now and composting everything and going into the winter season. But we always like to sit down and talk about, what we accomplished, what went well, what we would do differently. And so that's what we want to do today.
So when we bought this property 3 years ago now, we've been gardening it for two. The house required a lot of work, and so did the land around it. It was really in disrepair, and we had to spend a lot of energy preparing things. So half the energy was put on the house, and the other half was really put into preparing the land so that we could grow food. Last year, we spent a lot of time trying to grow indoors. We had a little hoop greenhouse that we had pots in, and it did very badly. We had bad soil that we got from a local landscaping place, and that didn't produce us any food at all.
It didn't grow anything.
Nothing. Last year was kind of like a wash. We learned some things about the land, we did more clearing, and then beginning this year, we did get out there and knocked down a lot of trees and cleared the back property for a good sized garden. And that's where we are now.
Absolutely. So, question number one, what did you think went well this year?
I think that we got a lot of good soil. We had some horse manure that we got from a neighbor that we were able to let in season a while before mixing it in the soil. We do a lot of composting from our scraps in the house, which are all organic mostly, and we ended up with some good soil beds, and really trying to formulate a plan on what grows where, and we learned some things about the soil as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think too, we got the layout right. So we, positioned the garden with the rising of the sun in the east, going across the southern exposure, and going towards the west. So I think the layout of the garden went well. I think we got a late start because I planted probably starting in January of this year, and I started in the greenhouse, and I did a whole series of tomatoes and peppers, and nothing grew. And I couldn't figure it out. And I thought at first it was my seed, because what I normally do, I start with my oldest seed packs and I go through those before I, open anything new. So I thought my seed was old. So I switched out all the seed and I did it again, and found out that it was mice in the greenhouse that were coming in and eating the seed. And so it took me literally about a month and a half before I realized what was going on. So I lost all of that time, and I think that we got to a late start this year. So I'm thankful that this growing season we're starting indoors, and we'll be starting probably in December with the lettuces and things like that we know are cool crops, and we can put those out in the spring.
Additionally, for this winter season, we're going to do a lot more growing inside. We're setting up a green room in the basement that we can try some hydroponics and some different things to see about producing some food through the winter, as well as preparing the seeds that we can put out in the springtime.
Absolutely. So what do you think we should repeat for next year?
I think that we're off to a good start with having our understanding that we need to fertilize our beds, and one thing that we need to kind of repeat, I think, is to have a good understanding of what grows best in what areas, and because we had our peppers and our string beans and those kind of things were crazy prolific. They just kept on giving. Some of the other things that were kind of spread around were not as much. So we have to kind of understand what's the best areas to put things, and we'll put things back in those areas. and other areas we'll avoid altogether.
Yeah, and I think just off of your point, we should, really be thinking about rotating the crops anyway.
Mm.
So I think there was an area in the garden where the pumpkins were that nothing seemed to really grow up there. And I suspect that soil was very acidic, and it was, just an area that we need to probably try to amend, maybe with some lime this year, and get the pH up in that area so that we can put some things there. But you're right. I mean, we had a lot of growth. But the thing about the peppers, we planted them late in the year, which is okay because peppers are tropical fruit. So they really have to be in hot weather. You can't plant them too early or they won't produce. But they didn't really start coming in and really giving us peppers until really late August, September. But when they came in, it was incredible. I mean, like you could, one day difference, you could pick peppers and then go out the next day and it would be a whole
bowl of peppers.
Yeah, a whole nother bowl of peppers. So they were really good. I thought the tomatoes were good. Although, I think we could plant more varieties next year.
Yes, we had probably about 5 varieties.
And that, again, was due to the fact that I had planted several different varieties, but because the mice in the greenhouse were eating my seed, I thought the seeds were bad. And so I ended up with, I think, 3 varieties that I finally let grow.
Yeah. Well, I think we had heirlooms, we had Rome.
And we had beefsteak.
We had beefsteak. Yeah, we might have had 4 or 5.
Yeah.
What do you think that you would want to change?
Wow, a lot of things. I think the composting was an issue for us. We needed to compost earlier, really just through every season. Just keep that compost going, pulling out the completed compost and starting all over with the layers, and just every few months, just, repeating the process. Because that was the best soil amendment that we had, hands down.
Yeah.
I think never buying box store. I'm sorry. I've been to box stores in other areas other than Georgia, and it seemed like the soil was better. But the soil here that they're selling is not quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so staying away from that soil, creating our own amendments for the soil that we have.
Much better.
Yeah, that's what I would change. I would also change how we situated the fruit trees. I think for me, I did it too close. So like when the figs started to grow, I was just really in awe at the size of those trees. I mean, they came in and they were so tall, and they just got so tight together.
We brought the fig trees down from Pennsylvania with us when we moved here.
And they were so small.
Small at the time, but one season and they just all took off.
Yeah, they definitely did. So that, and just seasonal, planting seasonal. So starting with our cool crops, which we didn't have an opportunity to do this year, and then going into the summer crops, and then, the fall things. Because the pumpkins, I mean, they took over the yard.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
Well, and about that, one of the things that I think that we would change would be to organize better, because we let things run wherever they want. We really were, on one hand, we were looking at the food forest concept of just having everything growing everywhere, and it got confusing and even difficult to walk in, because we had different kinds of butternut squash and pumpkins showing up all over the place, from the top of the garden to the bottom, over like a 60 or 70 foot area, as well as tomatoes showing up everywhere, and it was just like we had to look and kind of hunt for food. It was almost like an Easter egg hunt that we do every day, trying to locate different food. And it was fun finding a surprise, something under a leaf, but but really to have a better idea of what is where, and just to keep better organization.
Yeah, the herbs were really, they really took off this year too.
Mm.
And I think the catnip was like everywhere.
Yep.
So everywhere we turned, there was some catnip growing.
And of course, the lemon balm.
Oh yeah, the lemon balm took off, and also the mullein.
Mm.
And that was something that we brought up from PA, because we don't really see a lot of mullein down here.
Yeah.
But the mullein was really just, it grew everywhere. And yeah, that, and there was one other.
We have a lot of different types of mints also, and we have mojito, peppermint, spearmint, apple mint, chocolate mint, and
Black
Mexican
mint.
and black mint,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all over the place, and that's nice because they grow wild and they spread out, and it gives us a lot that we can store for the winter.
Yeah. So, what do you think was the biggest challenge?
Well, the biggest challenge I think was some of it was really trying to learn what would grow and what didn't, because some of the things we planted over and over again and they just wouldn't come up. We couldn't get garlic, we couldn't get onions.
True.
We did have some issues with bugs and not being able to, trying to control them organically. We didn't want to get into pesticides. So they would have, a smorgasbord just eating whatever they wanted, and we just would do what we could to try and minimize that. But also the soil types in different parts of the garden, things would not grow.
True. And we did try this year to plant things not just in one space. Like, we planted onions in several different places in the garden. And that's so true. They did not come up, and I don't know. And we had, I think, like 8 different varieties of onions that we planted, and I don't think we got any.
Yeah.
So we got to really understand what that was and why. I suspect we didn't plant them early enough, but they just disappeared. So maybe something was eating them.
Yeah. We did have some issues with voles that were eating the roots underground of some of our pumpkins in the pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
And we were able to keep that down using
Castor
oil,
castor
pouring
oil.
on them.
Yeah.
But that was almost like we learned that after most of them were already eaten.
We're
so.
gone. But we do have a residential owl,
Mhm.
and some mornings I hear her out here hooting, and I'm just thankful for her because she's keeping that population down, I'm sure.
Mm.
Yeah. And the soil, I think, was a big challenge.
Yeah.
Just, amending the soil, trying to stay on the natural path and not use any, chemical, that was challenging.
Yeah.
And even with the horse manure, just trying to, make sure that our neighbor wasn't feeding the horses anything that could compromise the garden, and eventually just having to switch from that because not, being sure that, she was following an organic path. So,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so what was the biggest challenge? We talked about that. What was the biggest success?
The biggest success, we had 2 great things that that grew the way we wanted them to, and that, or more than we wanted to, and that was the pumpkins, number 1. We've got these pumpkins are huge, and we've got so many of them. We were giving them away to the point where we were told not to give them away anymore. Please don't give us any more pumpkins.
Right.
And we had, and so that was great. But we also had a lot of watermelons, and we love watermelons. And just during the season, we had so many, and of course, some of them came too fast. So we have to understand exactly how to regulate that so that we don't end up with too much, or we can give them away properly or whatever. But those were our biggest successes. We did very good with spaghetti squash and butternut squash and okra. Okra grows wild. We didn't even have that many plants, but it grew like crazy, and we got tons of that. So we did have some successes with our growing. We are learning, I think, successfully we're learning what areas are working and what we need to do to become better farmers. That has been important, is really to educate ourselves so that we can put things in the right place. We can add fertilizer when necessary, water when necessary, like the figs needing more water, the tomatoes being careful not to water the branches and just the roots, like things like that we had to learn along the way. So we did have a lot of successes with becoming better farmers.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I think next year, we have a better understanding of what we should plant and what we shouldn't. I think corn this year wasn't a good crop for us.
No.
We did get corn, but it was small, and we bunched the corn together so that that's how it grows. It has to be kind of bunched together. I think we would skip the corn for next year, and maybe not so much okra, because you don't even like okra, do you?
Not enough for the amount that we got.
Yeah, and I was pickling the okra. I love pickled okra. So we have like a zillion cans of pickled okra in there. And I like it in hummus too. I don't know if you've ever made your hummus, but if you put the pickled okra in the hummus, it's really good. So that's, I think we would change. I would want to see more flowers in the garden this year. We did plant a lot of different things like bee balm, which is a beautiful flower, and it's very medicinal. But yeah, I would like to see more flowers this year. We had sunflowers, which attracted really some beautiful birds. But more things like that. What would you like to see?
I think that I'd like to increase our medicine cabinet, the apothecary, the amount of not just medicinal herbs, but even for teas and things like that. We have a good amount. We were growing bee balm, oregano, rosemary, basil, thyme, lemongrass. Yes,
all
lemon
of
balm.
the mints.
All of the mints.
Rosemary.
So we had a lot of stuff, but it's like I think marjoram too, didn't we have?
No, I think we just did oregano this year. Yeah.
But it's like I'd like to still have more. There's we're thinking about ashwagandha, ginger. We did have some turmeric, but we'd like to have more of that as well.
Yeah.
And just to increase, everything for eating to health wise.
Yeah, I mean we had yellow root, we had stinging nettle, we had yarrow, we had wild plantain was back there. We had comfrey, dandelion. And that was another thing, just to segue into the wild herbs. We really took a deep dive into the wild herbs this year. So we learned about the pokeweed. We learned about the sassafras root. We made what was it? Passion fruit. Tea from the leaves. So we really
wild lettuce. We have a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean we took a deep dive, into the wild herbs and learning the medicinal qualities and things like that. We planted elderberry down by the brook, and that's another thing. Hopefully we'll get a harvest on that next year. Anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
So what I would do differently, and hopefully we'll be able to do some of this in the winter, is to move some of those trees back there.
Spread out the figs.
Yeah, spread out the figs a little bit. Just a couple of them we planted in places that they need to be arranged better. I think that the blueberries, we can move up to that area that's more acidic, because they like acidic soil. And the raspberries, I think we really need to amend those soils. We need another kiwi plant, because the kiwi that we have was supposed to be propagating, but we haven't had any kiwi, and this is a 5-year-old kiwi vine. So we want to probably get a male to propagate that kiwi vine, and also the grapes. We didn't get a lot of grapes this year, but this was the first year that we had them.
Yeah, in a lot of our fruit producing plants, we had like this much grapes. We had like one peach on one of the trees and like 5 peaches on the other. Two
We
pears.
had a lot of peaches on that one tree. We had a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we didn't get any apples. So we figured this is the first year. Everything's becoming, you know, kind of acclimated to the soil and to the environment. And next year, we're looking for a good harvest.
Yeah. And Fred blossomed like crazy this year. We name our trees after our ancestors, and Fred was my dad. So Fred had so many blossoms on him, but he didn't have a tree to propagate them.
Yeah.
So he didn't produce any fruit. But next year we should have that problem
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah, hope to see some plums too.
Yeah, we got 2 plum trees out there.
Mm.
So yeah, that'll be good. And now this chime is going.
Mm.
The other
Forgot
one
about
was
that
going.
one.
Yeah. So what did you learn? What life lessons did you learn? How can you relate what we did in the garden to life?
I think that we, or I had the opportunity to be even closer to the earth, to see that I nurture the earth and the earth nurtures me.
Mm.
You know, we really grow together, and you're a healthier being for being closer to the earth. That would be my lesson from the farming aspect.
Wow, that's good. I agree with you, and I think the beauty of it is whatever you give Mama, she's gonna multiply it.
Mm.
And that's what we saw. I mean, like from one seed, just seeing like dozens and dozens of pumpkins,
Mm-hmm.
or dozens and dozens of watermelon. It's really remarkable to see how things get multiplied.
Yeah.
And I think also for me, I learned that things, nothing is ever linear.
Mm.
It's never like a straight line from A to B. It's always, ups and downs, and you think, or you have some level of expertise, but you really understand that, everything is new,
Yes.
and there are factors that you don't factor in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so it's never good, it's never bad, it just is.
Just is. That's the way of the world.
Yeah, and you begin to accept what is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you just grow from it.
Right.
And I think that's what gardening has helped me with.
Yeah.
Is understanding, that, not being frustrated about something, but just understanding that this is as a result of that, and I had no control over this, but I can move from here.
Mm.
And things are still good.
Yes.
And so
I think that nature is a lesson in patience.
yes, that's right.
You can want it to go as fast as you want, but you watch that seed come up and there's nothing. It's flat dirt for a long period of time, and then you see just the slightest little growth, and you're excited, and it still can take 3-4 months before you see anything that's worth, that you can call a plant. And it's just that after a while you get to know that that's going to be the process of watching and waiting, and trying not to be overexcited, because you're going to have to wait. There's no two ways about it. There's no hurrying it. You have to wait. So
in its own due time, right?
yeah, and in our society, in our culture, we are taught, or we are programmed to believe that everything is fast and now. We want it now. We want microwaves. We want fast cars. We want everything.
McDonald's.
We want high-speed internet. Everything has to be fast. And nature is not about that. It brings us back to our roots, literally.
Yes. It slows you down.
Mm.
I think it makes you, appreciate, this life, you have to really just drink deeply from the cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to learn how to appreciate things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it taught me, is to slow down, to appreciate things, to just be close to the earth.
Mm.
So, having said all of that, we thank you for stopping by. We thank you for listening. And as always, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell us how your gardening is going. And we want to start community. So we want to be a part of a community of people that love gardening, that love farming, that love the things that we love, and want to share their experiences with us as well.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Peace and blessings.